what does being a dad mean to you, and how has that changed your overall life perspective?
Yeah, so the first part of that, I think, is crucial. And I think it's probably one of the most important things that every person who is even considering it, and certainly at the point at which you find yourself there, that is a question that you need to answer for yourself. And in my mind, it will define the next 20 years of your life, at least, if not the rest of it, period. And so for me, it means I have a new number one job. And that's an absolutely crucial component of what just happened to my priorities. And if you don't, I think, make that a very conscious choice, then you're setting yourself up, and probably to a degree, in a scary way, your family, your children. If you don't at least know, you got to know what that means. And I think everybody involved has to understand what it is. But for me, it was very much a conscious decision to recognize that we're about to restack everything. And that while there's always give and take, priorities don't purely equal an everyday consistent weight of effort, that you've got to be able to look at it on the whole and know that's where your core energy is going. And that sort of feeds into that second part of how has it changed your life perspectives. It changes everything, as you know, and there's I have to believe there's a chemical component to it, not nearly in the same way that there is on the female side, but you do, at least for me, I find myself, I feel different emotions. I see an action and interpret it a different way than perhaps I might have before being a dad. Simple things just in terms of how people are treating a child around you, whereas it would have been purely based on principle prior, a learned behavior, an emphasis on how people should be treated versus an emotional reaction to something, because inherently and immediately you internalize your relationship with your child. Or
what would you want your kids to remember their childhood as? And then what would you want them to think about you as a father? And how do you hope that they explain you or describe you when they're asked about what you were like as a dad?
So how I would want my kids to remember their childhood, I would hope that they would remember it as a childhood that was full of love, joy, and happiness. And as a father, I did everything I could to teach them the way of life and show them how to navigate through it. How do I want to be remembered as a dad? I would hope that I want to be remembered as a dad the way I remember my dad. My dad, within the Lebanese community or within anybody that ever knew him, will always tell you he was the nicest man they ever met. And if I can be 50% of the man he was, I feel like I would have accomplished something big. So
I did the best I could. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's cliche. I did the best I could. I tried to be the best father. I tried to be the best grandfather. I tried to be the best human in this world, and everything that's there. That's what I would think. I just want people to know is I don't do any of this to self-serve me. I've got a really good life. I've done well. Like I said, I got the whole statistical and the American dream going on for me here. I don't know. I just want them to know that I tried my best. I wasn't perfect. None of us are perfect. I made my mistakes as my kids grew up. I've learned from my mistakes. I'm very, very proud of my kids. I'm proud of my grandkids. And all I want for them is to have a better life than I had, and I had a pretty darn good life. So, yeah, I guess I just leave it at that. Everything I do for my children.
I would have to say that, that the dad was passionate, that, the dad cared. Dad was there. He was passionate. He was present. That dad loved our mother. That's a big one for me. I mean, I know all relationships don't necessarily work out, but that I was always respectful, and I think that's important going into their future relationships. But the dad was consistent. That the dad was a man of his word. He said he was going to do something, and he did it. He may not did it always on time, but he got around. He did it. He was dependable.
Just fun. That's it, man. Just want to make sure we have as much fun as we possibly can. And that's it. I mean, are you familiar with the Jimmy Valvano speech that he did at the ESPYs a long time ago, actually?
No. What tell me about that.
I know he did a speech. He was dying at the time, but he did a speech, and it's something I really live by. So he says there's 3 things that you need to do every day. And those 3 things are laugh, think, and have your emotions brought to tears. If you can do all 3 of those things every day, then you had an awesome day.
Wow.
And I think that is like what I live by. I want to laugh all day. I want to think, and I want to be emotional about something, right? Every day. I think those are if you can do that, I mean, I truly believe that is like the most important things that you can do. If you can do that every day, then that's great.
Just that I was there for him, you know, that I was, that I was always there when he needed something crucial or critical, that he was able to come to me and I was there. I may not have the answer, I may have not given him the right answer, but he was able to turn to me, and I think that would make me very happy.
I hope what they'll say about me is that I took care of them, that I provided them a good childhood, an enjoyable childhood, that they know that no matter what they do, that I'm going to be there for them and try to help them out, and that Dad was a fun person. If I can get that out of them, I think I've done a good job.
Oh man, that is a doozy. I think that's going to change, as my kids get older and as I get older, and I learn more stuff. And, as a family, together, experience life together more often. But I think for me right now, I want my kids to know that I loved them and that I cared about them. And I think that's really it. At the end of the day, I can say that about my parents. But if we had financial problems, I didn't know about it. If there was issues, I didn't know about it. I can just say, I had a good childhood and my parents grew up loving me. And I hope that my children at this point in time in my life, they can say that about me.
I think that I would want to be remembered by my kids as there's a quote from Frantz Fanon, who was this guy from Martinique in the Caribbean, who he went to Algeria and he was fighting in he was fighting within sort of against French colonialism, and wrote these really important books about kind of that fight of domination, dominion, etc. But one of my favorite quotes of his is how I would want my kids to remember me. And he said, in the quote, he says, "In the world through which I travel, I am endlessly creating myself." And that's what I want them to remember, is that, look, I spent my life trying to just recreate, to just be better. And that means it's a process of trying to always grow and not sort of settle on who you are and think that you've achieved some kind of perfection. So within that, for me, if I'm going through this world and I'm endlessly kind of creating or recreating myself, that means that hopefully I have humility, and hopefully I have kindness, and hopefully I'm not arrogant, and all these things that would be hindrances to continuously trying to create yourself.
Something huge that I'm learning at this age, right? And I would want to instill in them is not to be dependent on outside validation. A lot of problems stem from that, of people just always searching for outside validation. So a bunch of these things that I'm learning at this age, right? Do something you're passionate about, persevere, not literally not care, quote unquote, about people's opinions. Like, that's not the driving force behind it, and be of service, you know.
That I, loved them, supported them, was there for them unconditionally. And even if I ever yelled at them, if I ever yelled at them or hurt their feelings, it was never intentional. It was for their own safety, and it was never to hurt their feelings. It was more to protect them from something. And if I ever did hurt their feelings, I probably hurt my feelings even more.
One of the most valuable things I learned from my dad was discipline, and learning that allowed me to push myself and to be able to achieve what I've been able to achieve across my career. So if the kids, love it, hate it, I want them to at least remember me for being able to teach them that. And then too, just the other things are really spending the time to teach them things that they may not otherwise have learned from school, or may not have learned the right things from some of their friends, to at least kind of stick up and make sure they're have some sort of guiding principles that they can continue carry with them through life.
My dad is this. My dad would always worry, but his time with us was never hurried. He played. He was a big kid himself. Now he's in that vase, sitting on my shelf. So there's the dad ode.
I would want them to think that Dad was always there for them. And regardless of whatever it was or whatever they needed, that he was always like, if they know they needed something and they needed someone to show up, Dad would be there no matter what, and that, and clearly that I love them and that I would, be there for them and whenever they needed me. There'd be nothing that would stand in my way to be there for them. And if at the end of the day they were able to say that and believe that, I think I would have done my job.